Welcome to the 2A Procast. Today we're excited to come to you from Colorado, where we've got Dudley, who is the president and founder of Rocky Mountain Gun Owners.
And the National Association for Gun Rights.
There it is. And of course, Nolando Meeks, the Sandalorian himself.
Hola.
What is going on, my friend?
Wow. I've never heard that. Sandalorian?
The Sandalorian.
Oh, you haven't heard that yet?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I've been dubbed many things.
Sandalista?
Ooh.
These guys were kind enough to invite us all the way out to Colorado so we could tour the facility.
Their mistake.
Their mistake. Have a range day with them. Again, their mistake. And we're excited to be out here. Thank you very much for inviting us out here. I really appreciate it.
Hanging out in my pub.
Yeah.
So, welcome.
Yeah. This is we're in Dudley's pub right now. So you may see some people, some creatures coming back behind the bar and making and mixing drinks throughout the entire process.
Hi-yo.
Yep. So there's some drinking going on in here. You may hear some wails of sorrow, some laughter. I did have a few things I wanted to talk to you about. So within AGR, I just wanted to know the background, a little bit of the background in AGR, not just how you started within AGR, but how it came to be initially, kind of the genesis of the entire operation.
Well, there's a frustration in the Second Amendment community. It's been around for a long time, and a lot of it's about the NRA and what a frustrating world they have been. And so I was asked by my friend and mentor, frankly, to work on a national group that was just a piece of paper. It was really an answer to the NRA. And a group that wouldn't compromise, a group that was going to fight it out in the trenches on Second Amendment issues, didn't care who got angry, did not care one whit if, for instance, a manufacturer of a firearms company said, "Be nice to my politician." Well, we care. Which we've had that before. And basically start a group and push a group into a real organization. And he's a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment, but he's not a gun guy.
Yeah.
The founder, and his name's Mike Rothfeld, and he started it, and then he asked me to run it, and largely because I've been running Rocky Mountain Gun Owners here, a Colorado group, and I built that up. And frankly, I looked at it and said, "Wow, not many donors, a little tiny bank account, a lot of work, pretty much no chance of ever being paid. Right. Sure, I'm a glutton for punishment. Why not?" And it was my passion, always has been. And frankly, with I think God's blessing and a lot of great members, we turned it into the largest gun group in America. Why do I say the largest? Well, you can't call the NRA a gun group. They're not.
That's
right.
That's for sure.
They're really not.
Yeah.
And we're bigger than anybody but them as far as budgets and staff size and things like that.
I saw the Ferraris in the driveway.
Yeah, all those Ferraris. Which one? The 69 GTR?
It's got 38 Ferraris.
It's got 38
It's
Ferraris.
But I do have a Cold War war wagon.
I saw
A
that.
Pinskauer out there. So
yeah, it was that. That was one of the.
which always makes the neighbors chuckle. But
Are we taking that out tonight?
give me a couple more.
Yeah. I'm not drinking.
I'll jump.
I'm having energy drink. So
You'll
anything
be
I'll
really
just-
around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of the genesis of the organization.
Right.
Been around for a while, but didn't really grow until about 2010, and then it started really growing. And of course, the big place where we quotes cut our teeth, where I like to say we reached adolescence, was the Toon Mansion fight in the U.S. Senate after the Sandy Hook disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And the NRA basically turtled. It's a hockey term, right?
Right.
You curl up in a ball, and that's what they did when the Sandy Hook tragedy happened. And like they always do when there's a tragedy, they disappear and act guilty.
Right.
And we're not guilty. Law-abiding people are not guilty. People who want to protect others who carry every day, they're not guilty for, disasters and tragedies and mass shootings. These are the people who want to be the sheepdog and not the wolf, and protect the flock. It would stay with that analogy. So we're and that was when, frankly, we as an organization, we had raised the money and we grew fast, and we I think we spent all more than all other gun groups combined in the fight in the U.S. Senate to oppose the Toomey Manchin bill. Toomey Manchin was just a code word for a whole bunch of gun control after Sandy Hook,
Yeah.
and that was the vehicle to pass it. And frankly, the NRA caved, and to this day, we found out not terribly long ago when they gave interviews that the reason they hid on it and didn't put their name on the compromise on most of the gun controls because they knew we were lurking in the shadows and we were going to call them out on it.
Yeah.
And to this day, we make it very clear. We have a very, very special attention paid to organizations that sell us out.
Mm.
And I think gun owners, we all want unity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be great if all gun groups, frankly, we're all under one banner.
Right.
Pretty unrealistic. But at least if we were all under, at least had some level of connection and work together because we all have the same goal. Well, that's great. But it is that, I think, fear of disunity that means we won't talk about the things that are disastrous and that really cause gun control. Because most of the gun controls in the last 30 years all came from compromise and deals that were cut by not only the NRA, but National Shooting Sports Foundation,
Right.
and the Second Amendment Foundation, Gottlieb's group, and others. And there are really only a couple of groups that have been involved in politics that haven't done it. And I'm happy to say NAGR isn't going to and hasn't. Certainly won't as long as I'm running it.
Right. And you're saying that there's some actual detriment to the Second Amendment coming from within on groups that are supposedly trying to defend.
Let me give you a great example,
Yeah.
Jake, and that is the red flag issue. Now, we all know, and we've talked about it, the issue itself. It is essentially prejudging.
Right.
It's a Minority Report.
Right.
Right.
Pre-crime. You're pre-crime.
Yeah.
It's arresting people without their knowledge and going in, not even arresting, because I misspoke, because it's not a criminal investigation. It is a civil investigation and to seize their arms without sometimes without any contact with the person you're taking them from.
Got it.
If an ex-girlfriend, or a girl you dated said, that guy's going to be a danger to people, and he might use his guns to hurt somebody.
Right.
Disgruntled.
In fact, they can do it by phone. So that's, we could go on for an hour about the details about how opposed to jurisprudence and Americans' view of it that is. But remember this: Republicans sponsored that bill for many years. Tough on crime, Marco Rubio and Linda Graham from South Carolina. Did I say Linda? I meant Lindsey Graham from South Carolina.
Oh.
So they were the sponsors, and then you all remember that after the shootings in Florida in the school, that Donald Trump came out and said, "Take the guns first. I like to take the guns first," and endorsed red flag and came out and supported red flag.
Right.
And one of his many foibles on the Second Amendment issue. Okay, set that aside for a minute. Of course, the Democrats love that Republicans are pushing for it. Of course, they want to be the heroes on gun control.
Right.
But if you, but these were NRA's top-rated people. Linda Graham and Little Marco are their highest-rated guys. So in the summer of 22, literally the same week that the Bruen decision was announced, the Senate sponsor of the federal red flag bill is none other than John Cornyn, the U.S. Senator from Texas. Again, the highest-rated NRA-rated politician that exists. And he cut a deal with the Connecticut U.S. Senator, Chris Murphy, to pass the most sweeping gun control that's passed since the Feinstein assault weapons ban in Brady bill.
All through the Republican.
As a Republican. And the reason he did it was because he already had the cover with the NRA rating. Right. By the way, he was that very year he was running for re-election. NRA still endorsed him. and they didn't lift a finger to oppose the bill. Because frankly, they work for the politicians. They don't work for us.
Right.
They don't work for the members. And so, and our rule is we call that out.
Right.
I'm sorry if it makes you upset. I'm sorry if your favorite politician who you like has been voting wrong. And you can say, oh, what are we going to do? Vote Democrat? No, but if we just keep voting for these clowns and don't hold them accountable, don't put pressure on them, they're just going to say, you're on my plantation. You're always going to do whatever I'm okay with. I'm one famous politician, and I won't use his name, but his initials are Donald Trump. And said was
Totally untrue.
Totally untrue.
he's on camera.
Yeah, can we get some Trump impressions from the background, please?
Cutting the cameras. You're getting the camera. Shut it down. Shut it down. Get those lights off.
I don't know if that'll come through, but that's fun.
I will crank it.
He literally Trump had said it one time, and that's a great reminder to voters and activists and people who care about issues. He said, I could shoot a guy on the street and my people would still vote for me.
Mm-hmm.
And but politicians once in a while will blurt that out in accident. With Trump, he doesn't have a choice.
A little Freudian slip.
Yeah, they'll have a Freudian slip and they'll say, what are you going to do? Vote Democrat? Come on, you got to vote for me.
Right.
You got no choice.
Right.
I can do whatever I want. As the old saying goes, us old folks, it took Nixon to go to China. Yeah. Who else could negotiate with the Chinese communists back in the 70s? Richard Nixon, Mr. Anti-Communist,
right?
Had that reputation. And that's true too. Frankly, the NRA can cut all kinds of deals. So.
Right. And so when we were talking a little bit earlier, I found it really interesting because you provided specific examples. And the reason why I want to go through this is because I think there's a lot of folks out there, including myself, who at any point in time, you see these organizations that are supporting the Second Amendment, but you don't know specifically what they're doing, why they're doing it, or their unique value proposition. So if you're going to be putting resources into something, if you're going to be putting your time into something, your investment of your time, which you've traded for the money that you're going to put into your institute, your organization, your association, then
don't call it an institution.
Don't call it an institution. Not with that acronym.
People who annoy you.
People who annoy you. Dudley here, president of the Naggers. All right.
Well, I agree. You almost feel kind of blindsided by these organizations that kind of just like they put out like, oh, we've done this, and don't really have a whole lot of gumption in their words.
There are there's a lot of different strategies. Talk about that. You can be solid philosophically, but do you have a coherent political strategy?
Right.
And we were very clear about what our strategy is. It's different than others.
Yeah, talk about that for a second, because you said it is to show politicians that if they do something, they will be held accountable for it, and they will not get the vote that they think they're going to get. That it's not a given. It's not. Your campaign might actually have to be out there doing some work if you choose
That's right.
to violate somebody's
That's right.
rights, right?
Gun owners have been lied to for decades. And so one of my very specific foundational rules as a gun lobbyist for 3 decades is don't lie to gun owners. Don't try and shine them. Tell them the truth. Tell them what you see and happening behind the scenes. Let them judge whether they think you're accurate, whether your predictions make sense, whether your opinion makes sense.
Right.
And part of the problem is so many organizations don't want to call out politicians. They think they'll pay a price, and yes, they will. If sometimes when you go out and hold like Republicans accountable, there will be people mad at you, and some of them will be your donors.
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry. You don't want to lose those donors, but you know what?
Yeah.
I think they'll respect you better in the long term, and that you didn't lie to them about it. So I think you're specifically asking more like deliverables.
Right. You showcased something very specific that you did, because one of the questions was like, what specifically, like, give me an example, walk me through something where, you're putting pressure on a politician to actually defend the Second Amendment. And one of them, I bet, just to bring the topic back up real quick, it was, you place the phone call, you say, hey, did you know that this guy in your district is going to do X, Y, or Z? You want me to patch you in?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's very expensive to call activists and then tell them their congressman or their state senator is about ready to vote on gun control, and we need their vote. And could we patch you through? We pay for it. Right. It's a live operator saying this to the person on the phone, the activist on the phone, and they say yes, and then we connect them to that politician. We even give them, tell them to vote against or to vote for instance, H.R. 9534, the National Constitutional Carry Act that Thomas Massey just introduced, and put a little bit of pressure on.
Right.
As Everett Dirksen, a famous U.S. senator, said, when I feel the heat, I see the light. And so pressure, any lobbyist who says pressure is going to harm us here is not only lying to you, he's grifting on you. Okay. Run from that. Got it. Pressure always helps. And even to the good guys,
pressure makes time.
They love it.
Yeah.
Like, you talk to the best members of Congress, Thomas Massey, Chip Roy, Bob Good, Andrew Clyde, any of those people, Senator Mike Lee, Senator Rand Paul, Eric Schmidt, those guys will all tell you, we love it when pro-gun people call in and say, hey, vote for this bill, or make sure you co-sponsor this bill. They're like, heck, co-sponsor, I sponsored it. It's my bill. And you bet, they love that kind of stuff. And if you're talking to a politician who is frankly upset about it, it means you need to get them a tube of Vagisil.
Yeah.
It means they're wussies and they're going to vote wrong.
Right.
Or they're certainly thinking about it.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing that a politician could ever tell you is, if you put more pressure on me, I'm going to vote against you. Really?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You really think I'm that stupid?
Yeah.
And as activists, don't be that stupid.
Right.
Here's another thing, you were asking that. Things never to say to a politician.
Yeah.
Never say, hey, I need you to vote against this controversial piece of legislation. I know you're on the fence. By the way, I always will vote for you, no matter what. I voted for you 100 times.
Right.
I never vote for anybody but a Republican. I always vote for you. You just had a tattoo on your head that said loser.
Right.
They will ignore you for the rest of their life because you've already given them what they want, which is your vote.
Right.
That's what they really want. Now, they want to shake you down for money and volunteer time. But in the end, all that is to get votes.
Got it.
So, and don't be mystified when politicians act like politicians. Newsflash, election cycles means they lie.
Right.
Yeah.
And they lie to get your vote.
Take it at face value and understand what it is.
That's right.
So if somebody, I was kind of getting into this earlier, if somebody's like, okay, well, I want to be able to donate my money. I need to be able to better understand the different institutions and organizations and associations that are going to be able to protect our gun rights. What would you say the fundamental differences are between you, FBC, GOA? Do you guys kind of all do similar things? And you've already explained what you do. But as far as friends. Yeah, and I'm not saying we're not here to run a hit piece on any of the other guys, but just everybody operates a little bit differently. I was just curious to see, our strategy is to do X and theirs is Y and Z.
Give me the dirt, Dudley.
And then talk a bunch of shit because that makes for good TV.
Yeah. I will say, I'm a life member of Gun Owners of America, as well as, of course, NGR and OJ. But I'm and they're good friends of mine, and we disagree once in a while on strategy. They do some good things better than us, and we do some things better than them. I like to point out our record on constitutional carry in the states all around the country. We have 29 right now. We played a significant role in almost all of those. Yeah. Really, except for the first 3, which no one played a significant role in Vermont. That was during their constitution, and they initially drafted the Constitution and didn't put any prohibitions or any initial law prohibiting carrying of concealed without a permit. Right. And so therefore anything that's not prohibited is legal. Right. And but Alaska and Arizona really happened before on our watch. But then you go to 2011, and that was Wyoming. That was us.
Got it.
And even when we were very young, and as an organization, and most of the rest of them, all of them we played either the major role or a significant role in most all of those states. Texas is the biggest role, clearly. I mean,
Right.
It was $2.2 million in 8 years, and that was a heavy lift. Others, we've teamed up with other groups, and we're very happy. Even when the NRA does the right thing, great, sounds great. We'll look the other way on other things and just say, let's go out. Now, what is unforgivable is when organizations give cover to bad politicians. That is unforgivable in my view. Once they start doing that, when guys who are really actually bad and doing harm, like John Cornyn, there's no coming back from that, in my view. And I'm, of course,
How can the average person uncover that?
well, it's very difficult, almost impossible. We're probably the only organization that will actually talk about it. Although I think there are a growing number of influencers, lamest name ever.
I hate it.
Yeah.
But says an influencer.
That's why I hate it.
But there are a growing number who are willing to say things. They don't always get it right. There are a lot of things I'm not very good at. I'm a mediocre hockey player, maybe weak hockey player, especially my older age. I'm not that great a handgun shooter. I'm a decent long range precision rifle shooter, but I know politics. That's all I've pretty much been doing.
You gave me a hell of a foot rub when I showed up to you. So,
Okay, I'm good.
Great hands on
And I can say that a lot of it's just straight up BS. There are a lot of people who just claim credit for things. I'm not saying we don't make mistakes. My organization made mistakes. In 31 years of working as a gun lobbyist, I've made mistakes more than almost anybody in politics. And since Wayne LaPierre is not actually a gun lobbyist anymore, I probably am the longest living gun lobbyist in America.
No kidding.
We're certainly close to that. And certainly as a national group leader, I am. But the that was a total Trump moment, wasn't it?
It's the best. Nobody's better than me.
No, you're on it. You're good.
Nobody's better than me.
Only for the long,
Yeah,
basically the longest living alive. Gun lobby harder than anyone else. Let me tell you what. I took a test. I'm the biggest gun lobbyist.
There are a lot of groups that just claim credit. A lot of groups that just do one thing.
Yeah.
And some of it's just like PR. They just run around and do PR. That's all they do is now let me explore that for just a second, because I think this is actually interesting. Let me ask, this is a quiz with you guys. Do you have anybody in your families who are liberal?
Yes.
That don't agree with you on guns?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And they're people that I call this my great the anthelma theory.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an anthelma.
Okay.
So this is I'm changing the names to protect against.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But you have someone in your family and you spend Thanksgiving with them,
Uh-huh.
and you talk to them about why the Second Amendment is so important and why personal defense is important. Law enforcement officers aren't there to protect you. They're forensic historians. There are lines around your body and take reports, and you need to have the tools for self-defense. Most of the time that tool's GTFO.
Mm-hmm.
And but you might, God forbid, you might actually have to use a weapon to do it, and maybe you should have some training and know how to do it. And so the next shitbird who tries to you or your loved ones and do those kind of things, or a terrorist or something to that effect, you put them down like a bad habit.
Right.
So, but you try and convince her, and you spend all Thanksgiving every freaking year talking to your Aunt Thelma because you don't care about football. I don't know if you guys are gay and like football.
I don't follow football. What are you talking
about? I'm a sports player. No team. No team. Just hockey.
Listen.
Just hockey.
I'm gay, but I don't like football, okay?
You just like gays on ice.
You just like...
Exactly.
I don't have to like football to be gay.
Well, that's a me.
Seriously. Silly. Jesus.
Wow. So you spent all that time talking to her, she changed your diapers. And frankly, if she called you at 2 a.m, you would drive 4 hours to her house to help her. Right?
Absolutely.
Because you love her.
Yeah,
And she loves you.
Yep.
And you couldn't change her mind.
Right.
And
That's a good point.
And you're going to change a total stranger's mind in 10, 15-second video.
Right.
Or it doesn't make any sense. Yes, there are people who change their mind due to circumstances. Not usually because they went shooting and like shooting. No, I don't buy that. Sorry. As much fun as shooting is, I don't buy that people go out and go, they hated guns their whole life and go bang, 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 and then go, oh, well, now I'm going to vote 100% pro-gun.
Well, I didn't like guns until I found out Biden's wife had a shotgun. As soon as he said that, I was like, fuck, I'm in. Sign me up for the 2A.
Jill's got a double barrel?
Jill's got a double barrel.
She fires in the air.
She fires it in the air.
I hear somebody knocking, 2 shots in the air.
The thought process that you're going to change someone's mind is kind of silly.
Yeah.
I mean, does the gal who's a commie and her whole life is thought guns were bad, and then all of a sudden her ex-husband is stalking her, and she's like, I got to start carrying a gun, and because that restraining order means Jack's freaking squad.
Yeah, it's a piece of
and you know what? That might convert her, but not because of you arguing. Maybe because you were her friend. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't try to convert people and talk to them about it. You should, and you should be caring to your friends and family, and because it could be their lives. It's certainly their safety, and frankly, we want more Americans believing that, but that is not determinative in the fight. Here's why. Who cares? My next door neighbor, and I have a next door neighbor who's a hardcore lefty, and she asked me during COVID if I would help her train her with a gun, and because she's
just gonna say sometimes events change minds, right?
Guess what? And she's worried that she was literally in 2020 worried that Trump people were going to come over and kill her. And like, wow.
So you just say, yes, they're going to. You should want guns.
You should get a gun.
They're all out to kill you.
But it's not.
You should vote for the 2A.
It's not. Her wanting a gun does not change her voting pattern.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Very few people actually change their voting pattern just because, I mean, a lot of them have that elitist attitude of, most people shouldn't have guns. Me now, however, I should be able to have one. And because I'm smart. So I just, there's a lot of like ridiculous concept
out.
Yeah.
Completely out of context. Put that all over.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people shouldn't have guns, but I can because I'm smart.
We're just going to clip it with Jake saying something completely random, and you'll be like, well, I should have one. I'm smart.
Yeah. So the concept that you're going to change their mind is silly. But even if you did change their mind, my next door neighbor, for instance, if I sat down and did change her mind, it doesn't change how she votes. Yeah. And frankly, it only really counts if you vote.
It's an interesting.
Now, I'm not somebody who says, let's go out and register people to vote. Frankly, there's a very technical reason that people don't vote. It's really elaborate. I could take hours, but I can sum it up in just a couple words. They don't freaking care.
As long as you can get a latte at Starbucks, nobody's going to give a fuck. Straight up.
Probably true.
I mean, really. So, like, until you take away the creature comforts, until shit starts getting hard, until things actually need to fucking change, nobody cares.
So most people aren't going to change their mind based on you talking with them. But even if they do, you registering them to vote probably means they don't vote. It just means more people who are on the voter rolls who don't vote. Now, I don't necessarily want everybody to vote. I mean, the thing we saw in 2020 was broad numbers of people who'd never voted, who now got a ballot by mail because of COVID, voted.
Right.
And I think it should be kind of tough to vote. I think you should have to actually go through some hoops and hurdles to vote. You got to get registered.
Make it difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Now I don't want Jim Crow laws. But we used to pray for snowstorms during the general election because it meant only committed people voted. It meant usually conservatives voted in bigger numbers.
No, that makes total sense.
They're going to find a way out there. They're going to get outside of their comfort zone and get to the ballot box.
I also don't.
Who care?
Not terribly excited about people who saw one commercial and they never voted in their life, but I saw this commercial about legalizing weed. What the hell? And go hit the lever.
Well,
Right.
we saw such a campaign from Tony Gonzalez towards Brandon Herrera and what disinformation he was pushing. It's just like you're saying with that, like people who see one campaign ad, like if they just saw one campaign ad from Tony against Brandon, it's like, oh, he's this person who hates veterans, who is completely against all of your human rights, and it's just like, ooh.
Yeah, our super PAC spent a lot of money in that race. Besides maxing out to Brandon in both his primary and then his runoff, we spent a lot of money in our super PAC because we thought that was an important race.
Yeah.
Now back to I think you alluded to it earlier. We think it's healthy for politicians to have to face a re-election, especially if it's a focus group of people. In Brandon's case, it was a bunch of young people really freaking mad at Tony Gonzalez and in Texas.
Right.
And that was a seminal moment for Gonzalez, that's for sure. Will it change his voting pattern? Oh, I'm sure it will. Do I wish Brandon, do I hope he runs again? Yeah, I do. And I think he'd probably win if he does it again, although he did, I think, endorse him after the primary. I probably wouldn't have done that, but that's Brandon. Brandon gets to choose his own route.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that there is no such thing as finding common ground, but politicians should be afraid of gun owners.
Yeah.
And we should be afraid for their campaigns. If there's anything on the planet that makes a politician angry and frankly worried, is when they start getting challengers. Because remember, politicians have this, once they've got elected, they have this thought process that God has ordained me and given me this seat until time ends or I decide to leave, either by myself or by death. And they literally get upset when someone filed against them, as if there's no need to have an election. And that's what Tony Gonzalez had was, how dare, I'm a congressman in a Republican congressman in a Republican district. How dare you run against me?
Yeah.
Screw you. There's these things called elections, and we have these elections to choose. And you got to prove your worth every stinking 2 years in Congress.
I like what you said earlier when we were talking. You said they want to play golf. They don't want to have to run for re-election.
They want to play golf.
Yeah.
And bang their mistress.
That's right. Who doesn't? Am I right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, I have a question. I just want to test.
Speaking of which,
I just want to test how
you don't want to go home, do you?
dedicated you are to the Second Amendment. So just humor me real quick.
Okay.
If you had to sleep with Kamala Harris while she was laughing once a week for an entire year, but it would protect our ability to retain ownerships of AR-15s, would you take one for the team?
Wow. Let's take in multiples.
How committed are you?
How committed are you? You got to bang Kamala Harris once a week while she was
Just
laughing for
keep
an entire year.
Crabs are a bad thing, but
Did you do it?
I plead the fifth on that one. Whew. That's a tall order.
That is a tall order.
I hear she can.
But we know where he's. I hear she puts out. But we know where he stands.
What I've heard.
Willie Brown says something.
We share a last name.
Willie Brown, yeah. Uncle Willie.
Fair enough. All right. Knowing what you know about Tacticon and Nolan, are you fighting an urge to make out with him right now?
Yeah, well, always have.
Okay.
That's why I'm feeding more whiskey. Here you go.
What?
Bombergers, by the way. Bombergers.
He's just going to keep drinking. Like, fuck these guys. All right. I want to talk a little bit about. Oh, here's another one. Here's another hypothetical while we're on hypotheticals. This is a good one. I'm not going to make you sleep with anybody.
This is gonna make you slip this up.
My wife is literally in this room, so kick that down.
If California could get its two-way rights back indefinitely, but it meant you were only allowed to shoot and arm yourself with a high-point yeet cannon for the rest of your life,
Take the deal. Yeah, I would take the
would
deal.
you make that sacrifice?
That's good, man.
Might have to.
Would you?
We would subsidize.
Think about it, yeet
cannons.
Yeah. 7 rounds.
Hey, to be fair, I've had zero malfunctions shooting a yeet cannon.
We've had incredible
There would be a huge
results with the yeet
aftermarket,
cannon.
You know,
Do you know that we actually had our guys in our office use Crisco as the
To lube
lube, as the lube in a yeet cannon. We also
I
had,
love that so
and it
much.
worked. It kept working.
Of course.
We had Top Shot Dustin shooting it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we couldn't get a malfunction. And then
I've used olive oil before.
yeah. And then we did. They also put it in a block of Jello, like The Office, like a steak.
Oh yeah.
Came out, fired great.
Yeah.
Silly, but you know
The
what?
heat cannon is
It's indestructible, really.
It's indestructible. We ran its paces up against the staccato.
Yeah. Or yeah.
Yeah, so we ran
Everything's
it.
a high point.
We ran it through.
Apples to apples.
It was pretty incredible. I mean, we did ran a Mozambique, a 1R1, a bill drill, and what else did we do? A transition drill. Yeah, and it actually came out like it smoked the staccato like two of the
by
drills.
percentages and like statistics, it technically beat the
It
staccato.
was weird how that all came out. I don't know, but anyway.
How about an alien though?
I've never shot one.
No, an alien.
I haven't yet.
Uh-uh.
The Lago Air.
Lago Air.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We have a friend with one at our banquet, and I'm anxious to shoot it. So,
Yeah.
hey, okay.
Isn't it like $4,000 or something?
Yeah.
5, 7.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about. We did some digging on the NSSF, just as far as who's on the board and what they're about, who owns them, who they're controlled by, right? Who's pulling the strings in the NSSF? It's pretty apparent that you've got a lot of presidents of major firearm corporations that are sitting on the board of the NSSF who are beholden to shareholders, of which are owned by BlackRock and Vanguard, right? Many of these are confirmed. We've done the research on that. Now, having said that, there are intentions behind some of the things that they're doing that we can't really identify. We could go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theory, but I want to get into actual facts and what happened with the magazine. You attempting tell us a little bit about you attempting over to a magazine in Colorado and what happened.
So, in general, though, for many years, when I first started lobbying for guns issues back in '93, it was in the Stone Ages, and if you said anything, especially in Washington D.C., bad about the NRA, you had to whisper it. Literally, I remember sitting with the U.S. Senator, a great guy, but he's like, Dudley, shh, I know, but you keep it down. I don't want to make sure they don't hear it, because somebody in this town could hear it, and I could get in trouble with those guys.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it was a little weird, but that was true, and in fact, and I think a lot of my personal trashings on NRA or on AR15.com and came from that animosity
Between you and Anime Lover 69?
Yeah, pretty much.
Big Titty Goth Girl 43. Lover 69.
Let me tell you what
They won't me by
this is what I absolutely love about you is that you're a dude is like running multiple organizations who are doing a lot lot of stuff.
Not institutions.
Not
associations.
It's associations, not institutions. So, but at the same time that you do all of these great things,
you have time to
you have time to sit down. Well, first you have time to sit down with a couple knuckleheads who are asking you retarded hypothetical questions.
Watch yourself.
Also, you end up in the forums with some of these guys, and it's cool. You know what I mean? It's good that you're
a gun nerd, man. It bothers me.
It's
I
cool.
care. I like to fight.
Well, you're accessible. Is what's nice about it. You're accessible. You got nothing to hide. You're an open book. You're doing the thing.
It's a weird way to say.
Where's my green room? I need some powder, makeup.
Separate Skittles. He only likes the green Skittles. It's good flavor.
But the NRA was always, nowadays, especially after 2019 when the NRA went down the shitter, these guys, now everybody knows.
Careful, they can hear you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody knows what a disaster they are and what they were.
Do you think there's an opportunity for redemption?
For those guys, hell no.
No.
There's no.
It's just too far gone.
Dudley Brown for NRA.
Yeah.
Dudley Brown for NRA. That's the only way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But everybody knew NSSF was just a shill for them, and frankly did pretty much whatever the NRA told him to.
Okay.
And then I started sensing that, of course, the NRA or NSSF always said things praising ATF. They've always said things praising gun control. That's not something new.
Right.
But then they frankly went the wrong direction after the NRA started taking gas, and they started giving taking the position that we're going to be the replacements for the NRA. Now they only take money from the industry.
Yeah.
That's not concerning.
And not individuals. They're not really representing the individual. If you think about it from just the industry itself, if you're manufacturing firearms, what's the best way to protect you from lawsuits? It's to let government be the decider of whether I can sell that to this group.
Right.
So they actually love that stuff.
Mm.
They love putting government in between the manufacturers of weapons and ammunition or whatever it might be,
Right.
and the consumer, because that absolves them of liability, or they claim it.
Right. Right.
And of course, it should. Nobody should be liable for what a properly functioning firearm does, except the person who uses it.
Right.
Right.
And so, but it's always been pretty bad. They've always been like the left of the NRA, which is kind of difficult to do on the gun issue, at least when you still call yourself pro-gun.
Right.
Well, Colorado, we have a magazine ban that was passed in 2013, and that was limiting magazines to greater than any magazines that are greater than 15 rounds. And we challenged that. We, being our state level group, Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, challenged that in state court. And that was during the balancing test era, pre-Bruin, and where essentially the courts could look at it and say, here's, go ahead and make your Second Amendment argument. And then when you were done making your Second Amendment argument, they're like, yep, go ahead and sit in the back of the bus, Mrs. Sparks. Now the state gets to show why they have the proper use of police powers and why it's important that they ban this and do this and do this. And guess who wins on that one every freaking time? Government and the controls. And so we lost in state court in the Colorado Supreme Court, even some of the Republican appointed judges voted against us. Not surprising given that quotes balancing test, which is not really balancing.
Right.
So then you go forward, and after the Bruin decision by the Supreme Court, which was given to us by the GOAT himself, Clarence Thomas, which I might remind everybody was appointed by one of the Bushes.
Right.
So whenever you're going to give credit to a president,
Which one? W?
yeah,
Apparently.
yeah, it was actually HW.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
When Justice Thomas made that ruling, and it was interesting because it was the day before the federal red flag bill passed. I was actually in D.C. on the Hill lobbying against the federal red flag bill, walking from the House over to the Senate, going to meet with Rand Paul, and when I got a call from our chairman of the board, who's an attorney, and said, I just read the Thomas decision in the Bruin case. You aren't going to believe it. And I literally cut a video right in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, and then went over and talked to Rand. And of course, we didn't stop that federal red flag bill. So it was kind of ironic this all happened right at once.
Right.
So as we looked at the decision, we said, hey, we better re-challenge the Colorado mag ban, but we're going to do it in federal court.
Got it.
With the Bruin decision. We that case was called Gates versus Polis. Ben Gates from Kinetic Research Group was the lead plaintiff. Oh, he's over here.
He's over there.
Yeah, he brought the Wahlburgers tonight. And
he's making kissy faces at me. I'm
and,
a little lost over here.
And that friend was in the case, Travis Schwartz, and we went and took that case. But the problem was we only had an estimate for the magazines by a firearms engineer who made an estimate. Pretty good, knowledgeable man in the firearms world, but it was still just an estimate on the number of magazines greater than 15 rounds in civilian hands. And the judge threw it out in December of 2023. So we had to find another case because you have to prove common use.
Right.
If you don't prove common use, it's kind of over.
Yep.
And that's the only thing that a plaintiff in a case like this on Bruin actually has to prove. All the rest of the burdens are on the state. They have to prove a historical analog of violating the Second Amendment of gun control would work and look back in the founding era. So we went and we were snooping around and found out NSSF was doing a study. And so we talked to them and said, hey, could we get that study for this suit? Now, Larry Keene's the head honcho at NSSF, and he's also an attorney. And so we did convert. We talked via email. He said, "Yeah, that'd be great. We should have this done. Talk with our researcher." So our attorney talked with a researcher, and who did it, and then we went down the road. So we were committed to that study.
Right.
And even though National Shooting Sports Foundation in this state, Colorado, their lobbyist was lobbying for more state level license or funding for gun control, including for Colorado Bureau of Investigation to enforce the magazine ban that we're trying to overturn.
Right.
We shut our mouths and said, whatever, just, let's get along with these guys. And then this summer, Larry Keene pulled the rug out and said, no, you can't actually depose our expert witness, the man who did the research. And it was
how far away from the deadline?
We well on past discovery deadline, so we had no choice. So we had to drop the case. Yeah, and pissed off my friend Ben here and Travis and all of us involved and all the money we spent on it. And Larry King knew exactly what he was doing.
Is it safe to say to the cameras and to the audience that the NSSF actively worked against the Second Amendment, the betterment of the Second Amendment, because it also is beholden and working with the manufacturers and the defense contractors rather than the Second Amendment and the people in it itself?
I don't know why, other than ego and whatever it might be, and frankly, lack of principle, that they would pull out. They certainly don't like us, and they probably have a good reason, because we're not going to lie about them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we shut our mouths for a while, just frankly, because we needed this study. We're not shutting our mouths anymore.
Yeah.
They've lobbied for gun control. They cheer gun control on all the time. And they put on this big event in Las Vegas called SHOT Show. We've all been to it many, many times.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure they won't let us in it anymore. Frankly, I've been to their cocktail parties and they suck. So
well, we're printing out flyers, so we're going to see how long it takes for us to get.
I've been to their cock parties and they suck.
They suck hard. Let me tell you what.
So
they only blow, if you catch my drift.
Oh my gosh. So
check, please.
So from an organizational standpoint, we're not going to lie to people. This is what happened. If you want to know why we dropped the lawsuit in Colorado, it's because of the National Shooting Sports Foundation.
Yep.
And we have emails and where we ask them to do things, where they agree to do things. We've got their researcher was literally working out a date to do the deposition, and so they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So
I slow roll it to the end. I mean, you think if they had no intention to do it, they would have pulled out in the beginning. You could have found somebody else to determine common use. I would assume that could have been an opportunity for you had you had the time between then and the deadline for the deposition.
That's right.
And
so we had to drop the case. We're going to refile the case, but only once we have the information in hand and we think it's sufficient.
Because if you don't do that, if you didn't drop the case and make that difficult decision, I would assume to drop the case, it would probably prevent any opportunity from it getting to where you needed it to go, which is the Supreme Court, correct?
Yeah, we knew we'd end up in the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals because we knew this judge would rule against us in the long run.
Right.
And so we were really setting up a case record, a full trial record for appeal, and end up in the U.S. Supreme Court. It might be another group that does it. Now we are working on actual numbers from manufacturers, and when we have those, we're going to make those available to other groups who want lawsuits.
Yeah.
Unlike the NSSF, we are going to do our very best to help others who are trying to get rid of gun controls, whether it's Gun Owners of America, FPC, anybody who acts like an adult and can say, we might have differences, but we got a shot at defeating this. Great. Sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll even, if our staff end up being the experts, we'll make our staff available. We'll pay for the staff to go and be deposed.
Got it.
And we'll pay for the research. We'll pay for the studies. But it's frustrating to watch this, and this is not new. Now, I'm no attorney, and I'm just a knuckle dragging Neanderthal who's been fighting in the trenches of gun control for a very long time. And look, I got a team full of people who are way better than me, and they make me look good. But I, they put me on the face, guy, as sad as that is. But they want me to go out there in front and say the things that need to be said, and be honest about it to gun owners. And I just tell gun owners, if you're frustrated like we are that we got this Bruin decision, we can't push it through. We're doing our very best to break through what I call the Second Amendment attorney mafia. And it's a mafia. And these are guys who literally don't want anybody but them to be the ones to do anything. I know one guy who's written many, many, many books on the Second Amendment. And it's a great writer. He's wonderful on talking about all the historical aspects of the Second Amendment. And we tried to get him to be an expert in a number of our cases. And he wouldn't. You know why? He won't be deposed.
Why?
Because then he'd have to reveal how much money he's made from gun owners.
Interesting.
Now, my salary's in public.
Right.
You can look us up on our financials in the 990s. We have to say it all. We have to spill it all out. The guy I'm talking about is Dave Kopel. And that guy literally doesn't want to reveal it. He will not be deposed, even though right now is the time for someone in those shoes to stand up and say, I'll be the expert that can go through and refute any historical analogs. We'll stand up and say, there have never been any magazine bans that goes through all that information. And he's one of the guys who'd be great at it. But he won't. Now, he knows as much about politics as I know about nuclear power generation. Literally, the guy knows nothing about politics. He's completely bad political. He's actually a Democrat, and his dad was a state legislator here in Colorado, far lefty state legislator, for what that's worth. But I think there's a problem when people who are too beholden to the paycheck they get and aren't willing to step up and say, I'll do this. And the question should be asked by other people. Fine, doesn't like us. Who cares? Everybody should ask that. Why aren't you doing this? Why haven't you done something? Right. Because we're only going to have a window of a certain period of time. Yeah. At some point it stops. We're not going to be able to, the court might change. Right. Or some weird ruling might pop out. Now, we don't care whose ruling pops out. It could be Duncan versus Bonta in California, which is an FPC and I think Calguns. Case. Fantastic. Good for them. If there's anything we can do, all they got to do is ask. I don't think there is. I think in that particular case, we're just waiting. And we're kind of waiting on a U.S. Supreme Court. But we're happy to help anybody because we all want this to pop, right? Right.
Yeah. We're all after kind of the same goal here.
We need a trial, a case that gets to trial, that goes that loses from probably. Sure. That Supreme Court justices can dig into. That's essentially what the Supreme Court said when we failed to get our Illinois case to the Supreme Court. They said it's not ready. I mean, it hasn't gone to trial yet. It hasn't been tried on the merits. And once you go through trial, then it's tried on the merits. And then if it lost, then I'm pretty sure there are a bunch of Supreme Court justices who want to say, yeah, you can't do that. And you can't do this. And all the garbage rulings we've been getting, like a judge saying, here's the historical analog for gun control. Slaves couldn't own guns. Literally, that literally popped out in a court case and was gulp down hook, line, and sinker.
So we just had to swap batteries for those who are wondering what just happened.
That was the interruption in the feed.
I have a quick question for you, just your own opinion.
Okay.
Because you
Personal opinion, not the organization. Wow,
Yeah.
this could be fun.
Yeah, personal opinion. Because as we were talking about the NRA, you said that's something that you can't come back from. What is something that organizations, or where is the line where an organization, a company, has gone too far and is no longer able to turn back around and be like, no, we're sorry, we're trying to push for better gun rights rather than we messed up and, push for legislation like Springfield Armory did that one time.
Contrition is pretty. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I speak for Armory.
That one time.
Contrition is kind of important. If you can't say I screwed up,
Right.
Got it.
I mean, we've done some things that and I'll take the blame for anything my staff did or I did, and the organization did. We've kind of screwed up on some races. I remember one particular race. We supported a candidate from Georgia named Paul Brown. He's a former congressman, good guy, sponsored a lot of great bills, and a longtime friend.
Was there any relation?
No.
Okay.
Spelled differently too. And Paul, but he had been in Congress and he was great, and then ran for Senate and lost, and then tried to run back for House again in a different House seat. And then he lost. He didn't make the runoff, so we supported a guy named Matt Gertler, who was a state legislator in the runoff. Matt is now Congressman Thomas Massey's chief of staff. Great guy. But he lost in that runoff to Andrew Clyde, who won the general election. Now, if you've ever looked up Andrew Clyde Armory in Georgia, he was a Marine pilot. And I mean, there are not many people who know as much about guns in DC as Andrew is, and rock solid, principled. Yeah, we screwed up twice. Not screwed up, but we did what we were supposed to. But we didn't know how good Andrew was, and he's good. So I joke because when Thomas Massey first got elected, we helped him get elected, but we went out to dinner the day he got sworn in, and he had all his young staff. And Thomas and I were sitting there talking at this busy beer bar, and he had like 9 of his staffers sitting at the table, and we started for the first time ever actually talking guns, not politics, guns. And I'm pretty sure it was an hour and a half before we both looked up and realized that all his staff were standing there with these big eyes trying to figure out what we were talking about.
Right.
And Thomas looked over at me and he goes, "Damn, Dudley, I thought I was going to be the only gun queer in DC." And I was a little uncomfortable with that term.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it was meant as a compliment. And because Thomas is the true gun guy, and he's House Second Amendment Caucus chair, and one of the few guys who will tell the truth in DC.
Right.
As a member of Congress and not lie about it. And he doesn't care if whoever's putting pressure on him, whether it's the ATF or the Judiciary Committee chairman when the Democrats were running it, or President Donald Trump, who threatened him.
Do you think there's any room for the phrase "I'm pro two-way but"?
Yeah. Everything after "but" is what you actually feel.
Right.
So it's posturing.
Right.
It's why I say usually, like hunting caucuses, sportsman caucus, two-way caucuses are usually just cover. They're just cover. Say, I'm pro-gun because I'm in the Second Amendment caucus, so the NRA gave me an A rating.
Right.
But everything after "but" is what you actually think. And,
Got it.
And everything before that was, I'm posturing to get your vote.
Right. Pay
So,
attention to me. Look at me.
yeah, look at me. And so I'm pro-gun, so you don't have to, whatever I say now, you can't really hold me accountable for. And I say, screw it. You hold them all accountable for everything. I mean, you'll never get more than you ask for in DC.
I'm pro-life.
In any politician.
Right.
Any state capital, you'll never get more than you ask for. So freaking ask for the moon. Ask for what you want.
Right.
And you know what? The truth it'll probably settle less than that. But at least you're not starting out from a compromised position and ended up way out there with essentially gun control light.
Right.
So
So, yeah, along those lines in today's politics, when libertarians are demonized by the conservative 2A space and when libertarians are as close to constitutionalists as you possibly get, why do you think that is? Why do you think, what's the trend of that happening? And do you even agree with that still?
Well, when you use the term libertarian, or let's define our terms, you use capital L, or are you talking lowercase L?
Okay.
I actually don't buy that all libertarians are taking votes from conservatives. I don't buy that. If you're an anti-moralist, anything goes, I just want to smoke pot, leave me alone, which was what a portion of the Libertarian Party was 10, 12, 15 years ago. I know a lot of them, friends with a lot of them.
Right.
And those guys, you know what? They were never given their vote to a Republican or conservative. They're more likely to side with the Democrat because the Democrats aren't moralists and aren't going to wag their finger at them.
Right.
This be realistic. I think there's a great use for the Libertarian Party, and that is to siphon off votes from leftist Republicans and make them lose.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have a constitutionalist libertarian who's not going to win. They're not going to win the office, but they can make a lefty Republican lose. So I don't. Yeah, that third party does that. I vote third party a lot. I can't remember what office we call it. Last presidential candidate for the major parties I voted for. Never voted for a Democrat, and I think I voted for a Republican in a very long time.
A couple of quick questions. So, super curious about this. What, right now, do you think the biggest threat is to the Second Amendment, in your opinion? From what you've seen, we've been around the number one threat to the Second Amendment, and what's the lowest hanging fruit to go after and retain our rights?
Big danger right now is that either the Democrats take the trifecta, or Republicans take the trifecta.
Okay.
And here's the problem:
Sandberg,
House, Senate, and presidency.
Okay.
Because we can get some very bad things when the parties control both. Gridlock is our friend.
Right.
Gridlock is our friend. As much as I'd like to pass Massey's House Resolution 9534, National Constitutional Carry,
Right.
or our Shush Act, which turns suppressors into nothing. Literally nothing. Not a Title I weapon. Right. You still have to fill out a 4473. Nothing. Mail order, have them 50 in a barrel,
Just
and you pick up a dozen at a time.
Right.
That sounds fantastic.
That sounds fantastic. That gives me Woody. So
Easy there, cowboy.
Oh, so it's not a suppressor.
One of those going on in the house is that
It-
not certain spiky thing.
Yeah, gridlock's your friend. So that's the danger. Was it another question?
What's the lowest hanging fruit?
What's the lowest hanging fruit?
North Carolina is a low hanging fruit right now. We might get constitutional carry,
Got it.
making that 30. Why is that number significant? That means there are 60 U.S. senators who represent states whose state legislatures voted and passed the toughest pro-gun legislation possible in America. 60 U.S. senators better be very careful what they do on guns, because it means gun owners have victories in those 30 states. And 60 is a magic number in the U.S. Senate.
Yep. Just run me through a few notable wins from the NAGR.
Other than constitutional carry, we think that's a huge win.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, absolutely. And you've
I could go through all the states,
right.
go through them in order.
Right.
Literally,
You have them all hanging on the wall from here.
you guys walk down the Hall of Fame, all the constitutional carries. Sometimes it's pictures of the signings, even the signing pens, and
Right.
the actual bills.
Yep.
There are babies, and those are in some states that, frankly, the good old boys ran and didn't want to let it pass,
Right.
and we beat them. And some of them, so much so that they threatened arrest. In Mississippi, they threatened the arrest of all our staff. We had to cycle our staff members through there because they were being tailed by the state police.
for those who are wondering why constitutional carry is such a big deal, that is like as Second Amendment as you can get.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
basically just carry a gun if you want, as long as you're legally eligible own the damn gun. Carry it, open or concealed. And that's our penultimate test in the state legislature, is do you pass that? And so those are all really important to us. But then we look at for instance, in 2013, 11 years ago, does that sound like ancient history? Man, we defeated what was guaranteed. Every pundit in America guaranteed, even Republicans, pro-gun people said it's going to pass. Some mental health legislation, some this, some that would restrict gun owners on broad categories was going to pass. And remember, it was under Barack Obama, and we beat it.
Yeah.
Harry Reid was the majority leader. He was pushing it, and he was an NRA darling, and we beat it. And that was us. And all you have to do is look up on a USA Today article where they detailed how much effort, how much was put in, and NRA and everybody else just did the same thing they did every year, and we went to war on that one. Now, what would have happened? Magazine ban.
Right.
No private sales in America. They shut down all private sales. There were a whole slew of efforts. So anything could have happened there.
One of the first things that I saw from you, of you, online, on social media, or anywhere on YouTube, really, was when and I'm going to take this. I'm going to start with this because I think it's really important because it gave me chills when I watched it, and I want everybody to see it before we get going here today. So it's a little bit in reverse, but explain to me what you were doing overseas when you're speaking to UN and what this was about, because we're about to play the clip. Yeah. So tell me what that was about. Who were you in front of? What were you doing? And then give some context for what we're about to see.
10% of which could be defined as assault rifles. How does the UNATT deal with a nation with not only so many small arms, but whose very foundation and national identity is wrapped around armed defiance? It's an inherent challenge to the state monopoly on small arms. Now, Mexico is trying a new method. They are suing U.S. small arms manufacturers in U.S. court, attempting to dodge the corruption and cartel issues that drive Mexico's rampant violence. This will, of course, fail. North Korea and China have a more traditional approach to citizen disagreement. We all know what that looks like. What Mexico, China, and many others here don't understand is that the world has changed. The internet has made so much of it obsolete. We are in the age of free men with arms, men who have decided that they will have no masters. And those men are circumventing your controls, including anything the UN may implement. The state monopoly on the tools of liberty is now over. Using plans downloaded on the internet, people are printing firearms in their homes and using them as a rudder to chart the course against oppression and giving teeth to their discontent. This is a very good reason that every successful dictator in the 20th century went out of their way to disarm citizens before enforcing the tyranny that would get them shot. But those days are over. You laugh. But it's true. I am not concerned with the praise or good opinions of dollar store dictators or bureaucrats. I'm only really now speaking to the people of the world, not just the CSP. The simple fact is that your government cannot keep you safe. It is neither their desire nor their objective. They seek only your obedience and subservience. They do not disarm you to keep you safe from yourself. They disarm you because they fear how you will react when they step out of line. They are either in bed with the criminals who oppress you or are the very criminals that dole out the oppression. Good men of the world, if you have arms, don't give them up, no matter what people here might say. Jealously protect and defend your ability to resist. They will be what stands between you and your self-determination. To those who have no arms, shake your system in order to secure them. Your arms can be the torch to light the path toward a better world, toward a future of your own making. Thank you.
Well, I was in Geneva, Switzerland for a full week
That's what it was.
at the UN.
Yep.
The United Nations has their arms trade treaty every year, the Conference of State Parties, and it's a big room with all these diplomats from all around the world. From virtually every country is represented in the room, and a lot of non-governmental organizations. And our organization was the pro-gun group in the room, and it was the only pro-gun group in the entire room the whole time. And NRA and NSSF had a little plaque there, and they didn't show up. So
Telling.
Interesting.
yeah, you have a chance to speak several times, and I frankly worked on the speech with a couple of my staff members in just a few minutes before the speech, and then I actually added in the clip about China and North Korea right at the very end because I thought that was telling, especially since they were there.
Right in front of it.
The People's Republic of China ambassador literally sitting at the front of the room, and I've been told by many people this is not a normal place that I operate in.
Right.
And I'm a federal lobbyist. I'm a lobbyist in many, many states, but I'd never really operated in Geneva in an international setting. And people told me, they never send English-speaking Chinese representatives there. And so when all that was said and done, I walked down, and we actually had an invite to an event we did that evening.
Okay.
And I handed the Chinese ambassador an invite, and his English was perfect, and he was friendly, but he chuckled kind of hard. So that was frankly, it was one of those I'd heard at that point, I'd heard for 3 solid days, politicians from all around the world, non-governmental organizations, basically advocate for gun control, advocate for disarming citizens, and advocate for the monopoly of the state to own the tools of defense.
That's never gone wrong ever.
No.
No, it's never gone wrong. And
That's kind of
that
that.
angered me beyond belief. It's why when you see the speech,
Yeah.
even though I kind of had to hurry it a little bit, I was gritting my teeth the whole time I was
Yeah.
saying
Looks like you
it.
were pissed off.
I was pissed,
Yeah.
and that probably came across that way. And
Good.
I
Yeah.
hope to bring that kind of passion again there, and I might even drag a U.S. senator with me to give that speech. He might do a better job than me, and it would ring harder. But it angered me that the U.S. representative was in the room, and he bragged to me that he had been the one who had authored and drafted the first arms trade treaty, and he was there. In fact, he even quipped to me after my first speech, where I said the state should not have a monopoly on the means of self-defense and means of the firearms. And he said, I actually disagree with you. I think the state should have the monopoly. And what went through my brain was, wait, didn't you have to take an oath to the Constitution?
Yeah.
It's weird how they can just openly break their oaths.
And they can forget that. Yeah. They can break constitutional law and have absolutely no repercussions
Yeah.
for it. It's
Yeah,
pretty
bureaucrats.
Yeah.
So
If last question, and then we'll wrap it up here. This is an interesting question. It's a unique question, and it's not a gotcha or a trap type question. I had to think about it when you and I discussed it today, right? Which is, if you could, a complete hypothetical situation. Now, don't worry, it's not going to be the other ones that we.
It's
This is more. It's going to be worse. It's an interesting question just about human nature. So, if you could hypothetically snap your fingers and all modern munitions, bombs, gunpowder, firearms, missiles would disappear and could never be reinvented again,
kumbaya moment.
right? Never be introduced to the human race. Would you do it?
No, because you still have the tyranny of the sword, the tyranny of the rock, the tyranny of, frankly, the largest man in the room wins. Taylor Rhodes. He wins. I don't know. You might argue.
This will be a good battle.
Taylor.
Oh, battle of the legendary.
Boss battle.
Yeah. Okay.
As to quote Eowyn from Lord of the Rings, those without swords may still die upon them.
Said Colt made them equal.
There it is.
Sam Colt made him equal.
So we can, there's ways to, obviously, we want to encourage everybody that is a part of our group to donate to an AGR. This is not this is obviously just something that I wanted to mention at the end. You can find the link in the description.
Gunrights.org. We're
Gunrights.org. Okay.
we're a nonprofit. We're not funded by big fat, Remington or
Fist Outdoors.
Fist Outdoors.
Have a board.
I mean, we'll take their check, but I doubt they'd ever write it.
There's
But it certainly wouldn't change our opinions.
shareholders
And
that are
we think we love having lots of members. Bible says a rope of many strands cannot be broken, and so people who give $20 and $30, those are people committed, and they give money, and they're active. And I'll take 10 NHR members over 1,000 NRA members every day, because these are guys who are committed to signing petitions, calling their politicians, being active in their communities. A lot of times they're the guys who have the intel. They call us up and say, this just happened. Whenever we are looking for a plaintiff on a suit, man, our members roger up.
interesting.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So there's more to it. Like from what you're saying, there's more to it than just, hey, I'm going to donate the $30, the $40. It's more of like you're actually active in your community, actually active within your district, voting locally, paying attention locally to what's going on.
Do what you can. We don't care. I mean, college students, man, we're free. Just be a part of what we're doing.
Got it.
Not any money when you're in college,
Right.
And we want the enthusiasm. It's older guys like me who have more disposable income when they get older, and they go, yeah, it's really time to pump me up. Because I can leave my guns to my family, but you know what? I can't leave freedom without doing something. And
That's good.
and you start thinking about, okay, well, all those guns I'm going to leave for my kids and my grandkids. I talked to my son tonight. Him doing his Trump impersonations, but like he can take all my guns, and
It's fantastic.
but like, sorry, but what if he can't own them?
Right.
And what if
The state tries
if the
to.
government really tries to take them, and they are trying to take them? I don't care what level it is. They want to take that right away, and I'm just not. That's my motivation for all the fighting we do, and that's our whole staff. If that's not their motivation, they don't work for us for long.
Right. Yeah, you got a good crew.
So,
Met some of them today, and I appreciate your time.
Except for that
fighting,
one guy.
fighting us.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
So don't say no college students don't have any money. No one was selling his ass while he was in college. So
Still am.
yep, still is, man. He's just really slept his way to the top.
Don't hate the
I
game,
do-
Blair.
I do appreciate your time and your hospitality and you having us out here, and thank you very much for sitting through some of the awkward questions. I implore you guys to get involved in your community and get involved with an AGR, and that's all I got, unless you got something else.
Nope.
All right,
That's it.
later, dudes.
L'chaim.
Well,